What's good? It's Woog. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you love music like I do. We're just going to take a moment to kind of go over this newly announced Verzuz battle between the two Verzuz co-founders, Timbaland and Swizz Beatz. And while on the surface, this might seem like it's a pretty much, pick 'em, like, oh yeah, Swizz Beatz got a ton of good stuff and Timbaland's got a ton of good stuff. Well, let me just simplify matters a little bit. I don't see this, if we're talking about an actual battle in production discography, basically everything that you've produced as producer, Timbaland and Swizz Beatz, I don't see it as being totally competitive. Now, Timbaland, first started getting his first official singles production credits like in the early to mid 90s. He did stuff for like early Usher. I'm talking about before the 97 My Way album, Usher. That's like 1994's Can You Get With It? So he was also doing songs from Jodeci's Diary of a Mad Band. That was back in like 93. So he had a few years head start on Swizz Beatz, who didn't first really emerge until 98. DMX's debut album, It's Dark and Hell Is Hot. A lot of people might think that Swizz Beatz produced that album because Swizz Beatz and DMX were seen as being like, musical partners in a way. And Swizz Beatz is closely identified with Ruff Ryders, the label. But Swizz Beatz really only produced one track from It's Dark and Hell Is Hot, which was the Ruff Ryders anthem. Probably the biggest song to come from that album. All the other songs were either PK, also known as P Killer, or Dame Grease. You could check out the video I recently did on DMX's first 3 albums run. Well, he produced a lot more, he being Swizz Beatz, produced a lot more of DMX's second album, Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood. But, comparatively, Swizz Beatz did do, a lot of the Lox stuff when the Lox came to Ruff Ryders, so they had a few good tracks from that. The first time I heard a Swizz Beatz beat was on Noriega's debut solo album. This was after CNN component Noriega's War Report. Noriega dropped Nori, and track 2 from that was called Banned from TV, produced by Swizz Beatz, and it featured like Cameron, Big Pun, Nature. It has Styles P and Jadakiss. Now, if you want an idea of what a Swizz Beatz beat sounds like, because when I'm comparing Timbaland and Swizz Beatz, I look at somebody who was transformative and basically was able to kind of reshape what was possible in not only a hip hop beat, but in an R&B beat. Years later in a pop beat with like Nelly Furtado and, Justin Timberlake's Future Sex Love Sounds. Remember how big that was? And that was after producing Cry Me a River from Justin Timberlake's debut album, Justified. So Timbaland definitely had a lot of, I would almost call him like a production outcast, because Outkast redefined what a musical group could sound like. Timbaland reshaped beat making in a lot of ways. So he was very unorthodox, a lot of kind of off-kilter rhythms. He was just a master of rhythm where, when you would hear, My Love from Justin Timberlake's Future Sex Love Sound, that was a single released after bringing Sexy back. But the like in the first just few seconds of the My Love beat, that was Justin Timberlake featuring T.I., you see that he's just cooking up something different, something that we as listeners were not hearing. You could hear the same thing from Aaliyah's. Now, she had the 1 in a Million album, right? Timbaland produced all the, relevant tracks off of that. If Your Girl Only Knew, the title track, 1 in a Million. We're talking classics here. 4-Page Letter, Hot Like Fire. Well, after that, the next year, Aaliyah had a song from, I think it was like the Dr. Dolittle soundtrack, but it was Are You That Somebody? Listen to that beat, and you could again hear how Timbaland is just redefining what is possible in a R&B, hip-hop sounding beat. Just the sounds that he's using in the beats were different. He had a baby cry after that, sound, and then just all kinds of different things where you're just like, damn, where is he even thinking to do this? Not to mention, when he first emerged onto the mainstream after, he was doing cuts here and there, like I said, for Jodeci and a few other groups. I mean, Genuine, he did Pony that, just think of how revolutionary of a beat that was. I mean, it was just different than everything else going on in our R&B in 1996. And that was, by the way, the same year that Aaliyah dropped that One in a Million album. So Timbaland was killing it by 96. And then the next year also produces SWV's Can We? That was that, Can We Get Kinky Tonight? I got so many things. So he also introduced the world to Missy Elliott, who was also, having writing credits and production credits back in the day, early 90s, same Virginia camp, working with everybody from Virginia Williams. That's the person who Drake name dropped, Pusha T's wife, that caused Pusha T to double down and go extra hard on Drake. But Timbaland and Missy were both working with her. They were both, as I mentioned, working with Jodeci. They were both working with early Usher, a group called Sista. But it wasn't until like 97 when Timbaland introduced the world to Missy through the song The Rain, Against My Window. Like, think about, obviously the music video with the Missy's outfit was iconic, but think about that beat and how kind of like down tempo, but super just cool and rhythmic that was. Again, another example of Timbaland reshaping what's possible in hip hop and R&B. Now, Swizz Beatz had a distinct sound, but I feel like that Swizz Beatz sound was so in the Swizz Beatz pocket to where you could hear a beat and tell, that's a Swizz Beatz beat. In a similar way, in the early to mid 90s, you could tell when you hear a beat sometimes if it was a RZA beat. Wu-Tang Clan members' solo albums, you could hear, what kind of sounds are being used, what kind of dirty drum sounds are being featured, what kind of sample is being selected. Like, producers dig through different records, which we'll get to that in a little bit, but they will pick certain songs and certain sounds that already kind of go with their style. So, like, when you hear Tears from the Wu-Tang's Enter the 36 Chambers, listen to that song and you'll get, the quintessential RZA beat. It's called Tears with a Z, just very kung fu Eastern sounding, right? Now, Swizz Beatz, you could listen to the song, the Nori song that I was talking about, Banned from TV, or you could listen to DMX's The Rough Riders anthem and hear what a quintessential Swizz Beatz beat sounds like, where it's like the loop that's playing, but then in the last couple measures, it'll like either double in speed or the drums will pick up. So in the case of Banned from TV, it's got that dun 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 dun, and then dun 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 dun, and then you can hear the drums just get way busier, and then it goes back to the dun 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 dun. So that was kind of a Swizz Beatz thing to do, and you would hear it. Listen to years later, Jay-Z's On to the Next One. That was Swizz Beatz. Now from Jay-Z's Black album, Timbaland did Dirt Off Your Shoulder. And a couple years before that, on the first Blueprint, Timbaland produced Hola Ovito. And on the album before that, what was it? The Dynasty album? No. The album before the Dynasty album. So now we're talking Volume 3, Life and Times of Sean Carter. Timbaland produced Big Pimpin'. Now, think about how different of a beat that was. I don't know if when you recall first hearing that Jay-Z album, but I remember listening to it and I hear, So Ghetto, produced by DJ Premier. It's like the boom bap hip hop fans type of beat. Then you go on and listen to the album, and then he's got like a song called like the Snoopy track featuring Juvenile on the hook, and it's like, this is kind of a weird one. Womp, 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 womp. Womp, womp. That was Timbaland too. And then later on in the same album, he does the dun, dun, doo, 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 the Big Pimpin' beat. So it's like, whoa, Timbaland just hit another level again. And he would, they would later get sued, because of the use of the sample. If you listen to the song that Big Pimpin' sampled from, you can hear that Timbaland didn't do a ton on top of like what was already basically the Big Pimpin' beat But yo, none of this is to take anything away from Swizz. You know, he did most of the songs on the first Eve album. He did that single, that song, Down Bottom. It was track 2 from the first Rough Riders compilation, Ride or Die Volume 1. That's the one with Drag On featuring Juvenile. Do y'all niggas bust your guns? Hell yeah, we bust. Oh, listen to that beat. That's another quintessential Swizz beat. That same year, now we're talking, like 99, which was a year after Noriega's, Nori and, DMX's Rough Riders anthem and first album Breakthrough. But in 99, you know how I'd mentioned Timbaland doing Big Pimpin' from Volume 3, Life and Times of Sean Carter. Well, Swizz Beatz produced on that album too, but he produced Things That You Do featuring Mariah Carey, Girl's Best Friend, which was like a bonus track, and it was they had a music video for it, so it was a single. I didn't love that song, but Jay-Z was kind of like getting into that, kind of flossing. It was before he started doing like the button downs and kind of having more of a grown up style. This is when he was still on that diamonds on top of diamonds stuff. Well, Girl's Best Friend was a song kind of in the vein of that. But Swizz Beatz also produced Jigga My Nigga. So that was Jigga, what's my motherfucking name? Jigga. And then, okay, another example of what I'm talking about with the quintessential Swizz Beatz. Listen to how niggas better get it right, bitches better get it right. What the beat does after the Jigga, dun dun, and then when it gets to that dun dun, it gets way busier for those last couple measures before going right back into the loop. So again, that was like a Swizz Beatz thing that he would do time and time again on these beats. He also did Money Cash Hoes the year before, so that's 98, Jay-Z's second album. Oh no, third album. Hard Knock Life Volume 2, Jay-Z's third album. Money Cash Hoes was a song that Swizz Beatz did. But then Timbaland from that same album did Nigga What? Nigga Who? Now think about that beat. Like, come on, man. Like that allowed Jay-Z to like really show people what he was made of in terms of being able to do the triple cadence, fast rhymes, and he executed those to perfection, along with his former friend Jaz-O, who kind of put Jay-Z on earlier in Jay's career. But they both were able to execute on that, diggity diggity, that was kind of the style that they came from before Jay-Z kind of found his mid-tempo rhyme pocket. But this allowed them to go back, and that's why they call it the Originators 98, because they were doing that fast style. But this was a few years later where Timbaland laid out the template or the canvas for them to go ahead and do their thing. But Swizz Beatz, I mean, he also did stuff for like Jadakiss solo albums. His first solo album, Kiss the Game Goodbye, he did Jada's Got a Gun. He did Kiss is Spittin'. That was the one that took that Michael McDonald I Keep Forgetting beat, the same thing that Warren G used in Regulate. Swizz Beatz also did a Styles P, one of Styles P's biggest singles from his debut album, Gangster and a Gentleman. Now we're talking, I think that's 2001. 2002, Gangster and a Gentleman album, but the single was Good Times. That's the one, I get high, I get high, I get high. Listen to that song, Good Times by Styles P. Love that song. Track 2 from Styles P's debut album. That was a Swizz beat. Swizz Beatz also produced a lot of Cassidy's music, especially from his first 2 or 3 albums. He did do that major single from Cassidy's third album, My Drink and My Two-Step, My Drink and My Two-Step. But from Cassidy's first album, Split Personality, Swizz Beatz produced Hotel featuring R. Kelly, big single at the time. He also produced from Cassidy's second album, he produced I'm a Hustler. Like, that was a pretty significant single. He also did T.I.'s Bring 'Em Out, which sounds like a Swizz beat, doesn't it? But Swizz Beatz also, this is kind of unheralded, or not really known that it was Swizz Beatz behind some of these beats. But like some of Beyonce's early albums, like B-Day, he did Get Me Bodied and Upgrade You, which Lil Wayne then took that beat and killed it on his mixtape, The Drought 3. But listen to that Upgrade You beat. I think she was also in like a phone commercial at the time with that same beat. Probably about upgrading, right? Swizz did Dr. Carter. That was, I think, track 2 from Lil Wayne's The Carter 3. His biggest, greatest album ever. Not necessarily his best, but certainly his biggest. Like, this took over the rap game when this album was released. He did T.I.'s Swing Your Rag. He did a few Nicki Minaj songs from her second album, or was that her third album? Pink Friday, whichever one had Roman's Revenge on it. He did like that beat. So Swizz obviously has made a super huge impact, you know, within hip hop and within R&B. And he's been active even more up until today. I'd say over the past 5 to 8 years, he's been more active on the beats than Timbaland has. Swizz has produced for like Nas, Lost Tapes 2, The Game, Snoop, Dave East, Jay Electronica, Joey Badass. So he's still doing his thing. Not as big of singles, or not songs that are making as big an impact as his beats were making, you know, 15, 20 years ago. But still, all in all, when you think about, you know, Timbaland, the stuff that he did for Genuine, you tell me this is different. What the hell is different? He did basically, you know, most of Genuine's biggest songs. He did, even when Timbaland and Magoo was breaking, like in '97, with Up Jump the Boogie, Boogie Jump the Bee. There was just, you never knew what Timbaland was going to deliver next. And then he just, you know, hit another gear. Because, like I said, he was producing for the Missies and the Genuines and these different artists. He even did a song on Nas's Nostradamus. He did it was a single too. It was "Owe Me Back" or "You Owe Me." That was one of the songs that Jay-Z was clowning on Nas, saying that Nas was getting too jiggy. But it was a big video, big single at the time, "You Owe Me," and you'll remember that if you go back and listen to "You Owe Me" by Nas. He did "She's a Bitch." "She's a Bitch" was a Missy single. Timbaland did "Hot Boys," another Missy song. But if you also look at like the chart success that a lot of Timbaland's singles were having when compared with, you know, Swizz Beatz chart success, Swizz Beatz has had his share of big time chart success as well, but not compared to Timbaland when you consider Future Sex Love Sounds. That's, again, Justin Timberlake. I mean, in 2001, Timbaland produced Ludacris's Roll Out. And if you listen back, you'll be like, yeah, that makes sense. That sounds like Timbo. He did that Bubba Sparxxx single. He introduced Bubba Sparxxx, you know, to the public, and did that song "Ugly," which was another big single at the time. I mean, even Bjork went to Timbaland for beats at a point in her career. He even gave the singer Tweet a platform and some singles. He did that "Oops, Oh My." That was a big single at the time. Tweet's single after that was "Call Me," another successful single produced by Timbaland. So, I mean, he was doing cross-genre. Like I said, he even did, you know, Bjork. He did those Nelly Furtado hits. Not "I'm Like a Bird," but, you know, what was the other one? It was a couple of them. It was "Man Eater" and "Promiscuous Girl." Remember those songs? Those were also Timbaland. I mean, Timbaland did, you know, LL Cool J's last relevant hit, which was "Headsprung." That was Timbaland. He did his Aphrodisiac album. So, again, it's easy to think that this would be like a pretty even battle. Timbaland, Swizz Beatz, they both have a ton of hits. But what I'm saying is that Swizz Beatz's beats are all within the same vein, similar pocket, and even recognizable to his signature sound. Whereas Timbaland kind of created like 5 to 10 different signature sounds. If you listen to "The Rain," "I Can't Stand the Rain," and then you listen to "Promiscuous Girl," or "Sexy Back," or "Are You That Somebody," or "The Games," "Put You on a Game," Timbaland's got too many styles to really be. You would have to go to, like, you know, the Quincy Joneses to have a more accurate comparison. Although I'm sure Quincy Jones would scoff at that notion and say, you know, I grew up playing this and this, and Quincy Jones had a deep jazz background before he was even doing anything remotely close to pop music. So Quincy Jones may be a bad comparison, but the point is that Timbaland redefined pop music for more than one generation. Like, he would come and kind of change the game up and hit them with all these singles. Then he would come back a couple years later and do the same. And then he would come back a few years later, you know, with Justin Timberlake this time. So, yeah, I can't wait to see this battle. It's actually a rematch. One of the first Verzuz battles was actually between these two. But if you're really talking production discography, it's Timbaland who is the clear winner. And that's not even a knock to Swizz Beatz. I'm sure Swizz Beatz and even Alicia Keys would agree, yeah, you know, Swizz is nice. He's got a ton of hits. He's produced for everybody from Jay-Z to DMX and so forth, T.I. But Timbaland is a generational talent. So yeah, feel free to look up their discographies, their recording histories, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But yeah, enjoy the battle. Let me know what you think about Timbaland versus Swizz Beatz. And please, leave your comments in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you love music like I do. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.